Hello guys and girls of the internet, and Jason!
Hello.
Welcome back to another episode of Cassar Industries. Today we're going to be working on Old Mate, the old Daihatsu. So basically this was a courtesy car that I bought and fixed up and was using as a courtesy car. For some unbeknown reason, Jason fell in love with it, so he bought it. But now it appears it's got a blown head gasket. Let me show you what's going on. So basically, when I had this thing, it did randomly get hot on me one day, and then I sort of brought it home, reblowed the cooling system, and then it was fine. I thought it was a little bit weird, but I thought it was just kind of like maybe whatever. Jason started driving, and it was fine for a while. Every now and then it was sort of like get a little bit warm and then sort of cool down. We put a thermostat in it, and then it sort of fixed it for a little bit. But now it does definitely appear like it's done a head gasket for a couple of reasons. First one is it's just smashing through coolant. It's probably using, every 30 Ks, it's munching down about 1 litre to 1.5 litres of coolant. You drive it for about 10 or 15 minutes and you can hear it burbling in the coolant overflow bottle. And a couple of other things which I'm going to show you, which I'll start it up to show you what they are. So this is pretty much a telltale sign. And another sign is actually leaking oil out of the head gasket on that front corner. Great. So basically what we're going to do is Jason and I are just going to basically smash on this thing together, try and get it blown apart as quickly as possible. We're just going to do a head gasket in it. Ideally, I'd like to send the head off to get checked and crack tested and decked. But because of where we live, it's normally like a 1.5 week turnaround to get that done. So we've only got about half a day, so we're just going to blow it apart, throw a gasket in it, and cross everything and hope that it's good. So I'll probably just set the camera up on time-lapse and just sort of get into it. But basically, we're going to probably leave the exhaust and inlet manifolds on the head. We'll just disconnect everything off them. We'll pull the leads off, the distributor cap off, pull all the plugs out, intake, sort of everything that we need, all the sensors, all the wiring from the top half of the engine, and get it all blown apart and see what we can find. Actually, before we go pulling it apart too much, all I've done so far is taken the distributor cap, rotor button and leads off. And I've also pulled the plugs out just to have a bit of a look. So I've sort of put them in order. Cylinder 1 looks sort of fine. Cylinder 2 looks like it's running a little bit rich or possibly burning a little bit of oil or both. It's a bit black. Cylinder 3 is fine. Cylinder 4, you can see that brown residue on the porcelain, and that's normally a telltale sign that they're burning water. So what we're going to do, because the engine is still quite hot, because he's literally just driven it here, we're going to compression test it. It's actually Sunday afternoon here, so we're going to compression test it hot. Then tomorrow morning, we'll compression test it again cold, and then we'll start pulling it apart. Cylinder 1. Yeah, about 156. Cylinder 2. That one's a bit healthier. She's probably at about 170. Cylinder 3. Cylinder 1, about 158. Now this is cylinder 4, the last one, which we think is the one with the problem. Yeah, it's down a little bit, so it's pretty much bang on 150. So one thing that I completely forgot to show you is before we drained the radiator, we did the compression test on hot engine. So the radiator cap was off, but the radiator was full. On cylinder 4, which is the one that's got the brownness on the spark plug, when we compression tested cylinder 4, it was actually pushing the coolant out of the top of the radiator. So brownness on the spark plug, pushing coolant out of the top of the radiator, plus oil coming out of the head gasket on that corner is definitely indicating a issue with this pot. Basically, if it's pushing coolant out of the radiator when you compression test a certain cylinder, that's a telltale sign that the head gasket is blown between a cooling jacket and compression. Which is causing the compression to go into the cooling system, which causes the coolant to come out of the top of the radiator. So anyway, we're just going to leave it here now for the day. Tomorrow morning, we'll come back, hit it bright and early, and we'll start blowing this thing apart. Morning, everyone. We're back into it bright and early this morning. We're going to start smashing on this thing. First thing we're going to do on a stone cold engine is we're going to compression test it again. The reason why I want to do a compression test again, yesterday we comp tested it on a hot engine, and now we're going to do a cold. The reason being is when metal is hot, it expands and tightens up little cracks and stuff like that. So it's just sort of like a bit of data, and then once we get it all back together and sort of back to this stage, we'll comp test it again on a cold engine and sort of compare the differences. I do find cold engines have slightly lower compression than warm engines, so it'll just be interesting to see. So we'll go ahead and do that. Cold comp test done. Didn't bother filming it. Here's the results. Everything's sort of come down, 2 to 6 psi with the exclusion of cylinder 4. That one actually came down 15 psi. So sort of does indicate, again, more proof that there's an issue on that cylinder. So without further ado, cue the time lapse. We'll get stuck into pulling this thing apart. So we're just going through and getting everything out of the way that needs to come off, including the air filter, upper and lower air box. Jason's going through now and taking off some electrical connectors for the sensors and getting the wiring out of the way. He's also going to remove the coolant bypass hose, top radiator hose, and get started on the exhaust heat shield. I'm removing the power steering pump and power steering pump bracket that bolt to the back of the cylinder head, as well as the top timing cover. But to get that out, I've got to remove the engine mount and engine mount bracket. Absolute pain in the anus this has been so far. We've had to strip way more off than I thought I'd have to sort of even just get the top timing cover off. But anyway, we've gone underneath, disconnected everything we need to from underneath, exhaust and inlet manifold brackets and blah, 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 blah. I think pretty much all that's left is timing belt, rocker cover, and then head bolts. And then we can lift it all off as one piece. So we're just going to set it at top dead center. I'm just going to cable tie the timing belt onto the camshaft sprocket, undo these 3 bolts, and just sort of bring this to the side. And then we can go through blowing the rest of it apart. So just want to give you guys a quick update, but we'll keep going. All right, cylinder head is off. Head gasket is still sitting on there, but I'll come back to that in a sec. Looking at the cylinder head itself, cylinder 4, you can definitely see both the exhaust valves are browned off compared to the others. So that's sort of just shows that it is burning a bit of water in that cylinder. Cylinder 3 looks fine. Cylinder 2 is a bit charcoaled up, but we're going to pretend we didn't see that. And cylinder 1 looks fine. That might be through valve stem seals or piston rings or something like that, but I have seen much, much worse, and I'm not terribly concerned about that just at this stage. But if we go across to the head gasket itself, we've definitely found the problem. So this is a water jacket right here, and you can see a very clear, this camera will focus, clear mark there of where the head gasket has failed between water jacket and compression. And it's also just sort of cracking all the way around here on a few of the cylinders through the water jackets, and we're getting a bit of an external crack up here as well. So we're just going to go through, finish taking all this stuff off, take the actual head gasket off like that. Oh man, that is just yuck. Look at that. Definite failure there. No wonder, Jason.
Yep. They're good.
So yeah, she's had better days. But anyway, we'll go through, get this all cleaned up, start the reassembly process, but we'll show you what it looks like once it's all sort of sorted out and ready to go back together. Oh yeah, that's brilliant. All right, guys, we are all cleaned up, looking all schmicko. Got everything nice and prepped. This is all cleaned up too. We actually ended up sending the head away to be professionally cleaned and checked. And by that, I mean, I hit it with this. So that's good enough. So now it's just about the reassembly. We're going to spray down the head gasket with some Hylamar spray. If you guys don't know what this stuff is, it is this here. So we'll spray the head gasket down with that, and we've also got like a liquid version of this that we'll just dip the tips of the head bolts into when we are reassembling everything. So yeah, let's get into it. So reassembly is basically just the reverse of disassembly, obviously. So I've just got my little rattle gun there on the lighter setting to wind the head bolts down to the head. Then I've got to go through and torque up all of the head bolts. Head bolt torque has to be done in 3 separate stages for this particular car. I'm just looking at the phone there for the sequence and the torque settings. While I do that, Jason's just laying in some of that wiring again and starting to reconnect some of the stuff that we took off. So yeah, we'll just get into it and start getting the whole thing back together. Head is torqued down. Now it's just a matter of going through and putting everything back on. I've already connected a few hoses, got the camshaft sprocket back on. So yeah, just get into it. Rightio, through the magic of the internet stuff, it's all back together. A lot of it you would not have seen because the GoPro went flat. Flopping thing. The plan was to put it all back together and before we put the spark plugs in to compression test it on a cold engine, but we forgot. So it's all back together. We filled it up with water and some coolant as well. So that's sort of ready to go. So what we're going to do is just start it and just see if everything's all good. We'll get it up to temperature and then we might compression test it when it's hot if we can be bothered. I don't know. We'll see, maybe. So yeah, we'll just go through, we'll start it, run it, let the coolant bleed up. And while it's cooling off, we'll do an oil filter on it and stuff. So yeah, hit it, Jace. You nervous?
Yes. Very.
Go on. That was easy. Not pushing any water up. No bubbles anyway. You can tell it's starting to mix the coolant through. Oh, to me it sounds better.
It sounds better than it did before.
All right, we're just going to let this thing run, guys. We'll check back shortly. Sweet as, we've had the thing running for sort of 15 minutes. We'll let the fans cycle so she's fully come up to temperature. Everything's looking good, it's running well. Didn't push any bubbles or anything like not normal out of the coolant. So now we're just going to lift the thing up, give it an oil change. And yeah, that should be about it. Yuck. Drink the nectar. Perfect. That's it, guys. It's all done. We've just taken it for probably about a 20-minute drive. Everything's fine. It's driving good. It feels like it drives noticeably smoother, smoother power, no funny noises. Temp stayed good. There's no boiling over. The only strange thing that happened when we were driving it, though, is all of this stuff fell out. So strange. I've never seen that happen before. So as a result, it now sits like this. Looks grouse. And tow hook. That's going to do us for this episode, guys. This thing's turned out really well. It's driving a lot smoother. Our power curve is a lot better. No overheating or abnormal noises. And I really think we've hit the nail on the head with doing the head gasket. Can confidently say that there is not an issue with the cylinder head on this thing, but we'll still monitor it and stuff, drive it around every day for the next few days and continue to monitor the coolant level and all that stuff. If you want to see more content from me, please remember to like and subscribe, follow us on our socials. Until we see you in the next video, be good, stay safe and take care of yourselves.